Okay, so I'm doing something new. This is my iPad I'm filming on because I discovered when I did some videos on it last night that it uploads so much faster than my computer. So if I upload it directly from the iPad. So we're going to try to do that. I'm going to try to stay focused on my little camera area down here. But I may end up glancing sideways and looking at myself. So apologize. I'm not trying to be weird or anything. But I was watching some videos of Drew Lynch, which if you guys do not know him, you've got to go look him up. He's hilarious. He's a professional comedian. He has a stutter and a service dog. So he's really just a really good advocate for people with disabilities and just sort of doing what you love, regardless of, what stands in your way. And one of the things he was talking about was, the fact that his injury that caused his stutter was not like he wasn't born with a stutter. It was something he had an accident, and that's what caused it. So literally, essentially going to sleep, speaking normally, and then waking up with a stutter that you can't get rid of. And it just really made me think that I've never really talked about the reality of living with acquired disabilities because, for those of you who don't know, yes, I have a condition that's genetic. That's true. But I lived my life pretty much asymptomatic through my entire childhood and up to at least, middle or high school. That's sort of when I can look back and I see, that the POTS and stuff was starting. I can really draw it back to my 9th grade year when I was in tennis because we had to run laps. And I remember I couldn't run. Like I would just be dying trying to run the laps, which, now we know is because of my POTS and because my heart was going too fast and I didn't have enough oxygen in my brain and all that good stuff. But at the time, we thought it was asthma. And so we did the test for that. And that's what we thought it was for several years. And so that's a whole nother thing. But when I was a kid, to my knowledge, I ran around. I played. I did gymnastics. I did dance. I played soccer. I played with my friends. I did everything, Everything was pretty normal. I was not one of those kids with EDS that, has, from childhood, has a lot of pain or has a lot of dislocations or is really limited. Even my cardiac output and stuff was normal as a child. We don't know why that changed, other than the fact that sometimes with these conditions that just happens. No one's really been able to give me a better explanation as to why that is, to how you can be fine for a long time, and then all of a sudden you're not. The best explanation I ever heard was someone at a support group meeting that I went to, and she basically said that when it comes to stuff like EDS and POTS and something that's genetically based or that's, likely has a genetic component to it. She said that pretty much the way she likened it to was that you're born with the capacity to have issues. It's something that could potentially happen because of what your DNA is. So as you're going along your life, something happens, some kind of stressor, whether it's physical injury, whether it's an emotional stressor, whether it's, an illness, it can be a lot of different things. But a stressor happens that flips that switch that creates the problems. And once you flip the switch, you can't unflip it. So once it's flipped, it's done. And then you continue having to deal with it for, pretty much ever. I mean, there are people that, have had treatments and stuff that have been successful, but I don't want to say they're few and far between because I don't know that for a fact, but I would say a lot of people, there's things that help, but it's not like you're ever going to be like you were. And there's a certain part of mourning that has to happen for that. I mean, and for me, it didn't happen all at once. It was something that, I still go through on, a daily basis, being frustrated and angry that I can't do the things that I used to do and, realizing that I have lost things that I love and that I have to be limited in a way I never was before. And I think that's the hardest part is I know what it's like to not have limits. I know what it's like to feel like you can do anything and like nothing can stop you from what you want to do. And then coming to the crashing reality that that's just not true anymore. The reality is there is a lot I can't do anymore. There's a lot of things I've had to give up because I kept getting injured, or because, my quality of life was suffering for it. So it's just, you have to make some really hard choices at a decently young age. I've already had to make choices about whether or not I'm going to have kids and things like that, I shouldn't even be having to think about right now. But because my condition is genetic, that's required some hard decisions. And just, deciding that giving up the gym, somewhere I used to love to go, and I miss it. But I kept getting injured. And when I was injured, not only was I miserable, but I couldn't work. And so then that was creating an issue. And so just having to really be an adult and sit there and say, I can't do this anymore. This is past, I'm past that point. And this, I'm at the point in my injury or illness or whatever you want to call it, to where I've got to start making some changes. And that's the hardest thing to do, is accepting that you're always going to be different. And with these conditions too, it's not even like, and I'm not even going to give an example of a condition like this because I don't want to speak out of turn, but it's not even something that's like, okay, you have this and this is what it is and this is what it's going to look like for the rest of your life and it's going to stay the same, or even knowing this is what we have, this is potentially what it could look like down the road. There's none of that here. I don't know how I'm going to feel from one day to the next. I don't know how I'm going to change over the years. Pretty much the only thing I know for sure is that I am going to decline. We don't know how far, we don't know how fast, we don't know how much. We don't know what I'll be able to do and what I won't. I have pain that I didn't have a couple of years ago. And there's just so many factors that go into how your body holds up. But I think that's the hardest part too, is like knowing that even though it's not life-threatening, it's very life-limiting. And not knowing, as a 26-year-old person, how many good years I have left, how many years I have left to do anything I want to do. And that's, acceptance of that takes time. I mean, I still feel like I'm not all the way there yet. There's some days where I'm really good with it and I can sit here and say like, I believe everything happens for a reason and that I'm on this journey for a reason. And I do, that's true. But then there's days that I get really angry about it, and everything that's been taken from me and everything that I've had to give up. And the fact I can't freaking go to the grocery store anymore without being center of attention. We were at the state fair yesterday, and every time I turned around, somebody was approaching me about my dog or, making a comment about him or staring at us. And it's like that everywhere you go, which is why I tell people, especially those with anxiety, you've got to make sure it's worth it. And it's not going to create more problems for you than what it's helping. Thankfully Batman does his cardiac alerts and helps with mobility, and so he's invaluable. But sometimes it just really sucks being different. Sometimes all you want is for just a second to just be like everybody else. To not have to think about, did I take this medication today? Or am I pushing myself too hard? Or, having to take an entire day to sleep and rest because you did too much, or, having to worry when I go to the fair with my sister in a couple of weeks, am I going to be able to handle it? Am I going to be able to handle the crowds and the people and the walking and the heat and all this stuff without, assistance? And having to accept the fact that there's things you're never going to be able to do without help ever again. And it's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow, especially when you've lived, half your life up to this point or more, without having to make those kind of decisions and without having to have those considerations. It feels really like something's been stolen from you. At least it does to me. And I don't know. I guess I just want everybody out there that's got this kind of situation to know that, like, I totally hear you. And I know how much it sucks for people, even the most understanding, most, tolerant people that are really still sticking there with us and are willing to help us and accept us. They can't understand. I'm very fortunate in that one of my best friends has many of the same conditions I have. So we can talk to each other. We can be frank and honest with each other, and we can talk about how much it sucks. And we know the other person really does understand. But so many people don't have that. so many people are still waiting on diagnoses, and we're all waiting on medical research and advancements that, you know, we don't know if are ever going to come in our lifetime. Because right now, when you're looking at Ehlers-Danlos, POTS, and dysautonomia, there is largely not a lot that can be done. There are some treatment options for some symptoms, but there is not a medication that can help the overall condition. There's not anything that can stop the degeneration. There's only so much that can be done, and there's not, you know, it's a rare disease. EDS is a rare disease, and it's something that doesn't get a lot of funding. It doesn't get a lot of research. There's just so much so we don't know about it. It's only been diagnosed in, I mean, probably the last 20 years. You know, don't quote me because I don't know, you know, all my years and everything like that. But I mean, it's still considered a rare disease. And yet I've met so many people suffering with it. And everybody's different. Like, some people have it worse than others. Some people have these symptoms that are the worst, and some people have those symptoms that are the worst. And so it's just, there's not a cohesive way to treat it. There's not stuff that's been proven to work. So we're kind of just guinea pigs. And I mean, that's nobody's fault, but it's a difficult reality to live with. And to sit here and say, you know, I don't go to the doctor and I don't try stuff because there's really no point. I've been told, you know, in no uncertain terms that by more than one doctor that there's just largely nothing they can do for me. We'll try to help the symptoms as we can as they come up, but I mean, there's nothing to be done. No one can make my heart work right. No one can fix my nervous system and make it do what it's supposed to do, especially since it was not the result of an illness or injury. It's just my body is just wired wrong. My genetics are wrong. So, I don't know. I'm not really sure like what the purpose of this was, but I just kind of wanted to be able to be a little bit honest about, you know, how difficult it is, and that I know it's really hard. And that we need to be there for each other because, you know, having somebody that really understands what you're going through is an amazing gift, even if they're across a computer screen. And we need to be advocates for our condition and, you know, try to do medical trials if we can, try to, you know, work with our doctors and find the best ones and educate all the ones that we do find. So people can be diagnosed earlier and there can maybe be more done in the future and we can live better lives. Anyway, any questions that you guys have about any of my conditions, any experiences you want to share, post it below. Start a conversation. Let's get talking about this. And I feel really lucky to be in this position in a way because as hard as it is, I know there's going to be something good that comes of it. I know it has happened for a reason. And I know I'm meant to do big things. So, yeah, just be there with me, guys, and let me know, you know, what you're thinking and how you feel about, you know, your situation. And let's just start a real conversation about it and let people know, you know, what living with a disability, especially acquired disabilities as a young person, is really like and what changes, you know, need to be had. So continue to advocate, continue to be honest and be open as much as you can be, because that's the only people who are going to understand, and it's the only way they're going to listen. So you guys have a good night, and we will see you in the next one. Thanks for listening.